the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends. Let's go and be changed. TMP is doing the most. TMP is doing the most. It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Miracle Perspective, and this is another edition of the Legends Show. And tonight's show is very special because I'm talking to upcoming individuals that are maybe in their career path, trying to find their right career path. Some people want to know about the property market, and this is also for those people who want to invest in property, but they have no clue what's happening in property. So today I have this kind man by the name of Tumelo Ramushu. Tumelo Ramushu is a real estate practitioner in the retail, residential, and commercial property portfolios. The real estate industry is his passion and has studied a range of related aspects of the industry. He completed a BCom honors in property evaluation with the University of Johannesburg and has completed his master's in building, specializing in property development and management with WITS, and is currently completing his master's in finance and investment with WITS Business School. I will quickly jump because his profile is very long, but I want to get to this part. He currently manages a portfolio at Moana Properties of over 105 buildings as portfolio manager, consisting of residential, retail, commercial, and industrial properties, which extends to over 680,000 square meters. He is also a seasonal lecturer at the WITS for the past 4 years at the School of Construction Economics and Management for both honors and BSc property studies, as well as executive courses at WITS Enterprises, teaching fundamentals of real estate management to the SAPOA property management program. And that is Tumelo Ramushu. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you today?
And yourself?
Good. Let's get straight to the discussion, sir. I want to understand your journey in the property market, in property industry. But before I get there, can you just give us a background of where you come from? Who are you? And did you ever have this idea of property in your mind growing up after school?
Thank you for having me, Miracle. It's a loaded question you've asked, but we'll dissect it. So, who am I? I think in terms of the name, obviously, it's Tumelo Ramushu. I'm a property practitioner as per your introduction, so essentially meaning that I'm involved within the property market. My role is to manage property in its related aspects. I'm a father, I'm a husband with 2 children, 1 girl, 1 boy, 7 and 8. I'm a lover of books. That's just basically a brief summary of myself. I grew up with my grandparents in Witbank, Mpumalanga, then moved to Pretoria to stay with my mother during my standard 10. And then I then moved to Johannesburg to further pursue my tertiary education. I started off with a diploma, a national diploma in banking and finance. Then I was able to do the honors in property valuation with UJ. And then from there, I basically entered the property market, but there was a few things in between. But just to go back to your question, did I ever see myself in property? I think so. I believe so, because I think earlier in my career, I then remembered the thing that I had actually wanted to do, and I didn't remember it when I first entered into the property market. I remembered it when I was now actually in the mall industry or the retail industry. So when I was busy with my diploma, my first year of diploma with WITS Tech, I remember when in Witbank there was a shopping center being built there, or rather it had been built. And I used to work with a friend, one of my friend's brother who was a tiler. So I would do piece jobs with him whenever I visited my grandmother back in Woodbank, and we'd tile houses. So I remember when I would think about a shopping center, I said, but who manages these things? Because it's not like you see a manager of a mall parading around, but yet you see the mall being in an operational state. So meaning it looks clean, looks like everybody is opening shops. There's probably some sort of economic activity happening. There must be somebody coordinating on it. So I used to think, but it would be nice to know what this person does on a daily basis. I probably want to, or rather be interested in such a role. So I somehow think I did have more or less a desire to be in property. But yeah, when I finished my valuations honors degree, my firstborn had actually just arrived or was coming, and I had no job. I then worked as a petrol attendant. I was an office manager and a petrol attendant at the same time. Then I got an opportunity to work at JD Group, so the guys who sell furniture. At that time, they were still bigger, a big retailer. So they had Russell's, Barnett's, Price and Pride, Joshua Doe, Hi-Fi Corporation. So I used to work with them, but that contract only lasted a year. Then we got retrenched. And then I had to look for alternative employment. And that's when I actually went back into being a petrol attendant because I still needed to feed the family. Yeah, but then I decided that I need to get back into the property industry. And the only way for me to get back in there is for me to rub shoulders with not the so I thought that maybe if I were to work to enter that space where there's probably managers and executives, I probably would have a better chance because I would have some sort of rapport. That's when I decided, let me do my master's. And I didn't have money then. I just thought that's where faith comes in. I said, Lord, this is what you're going to do for me. Or rather, this is what I ask of you. Prayed and fasted, and I got a leading to do it. Put in my application form. Didn't have money to register, and before you knew it, I was accepted firstly, and secondly, I was able to raise the funds in a short space of time, within 2 weeks. So I was able to get into the course. Did 6 months of petrol attendancy again, and then I was able to get back into the property industry through my discussions with my classmates.
Wow. That's very interesting and inspiring at the same time. I just want to understand, when you were going through that phase of working hard, but it seemed like what you want, what your dream was not coming true at the time. What was the motivation to keep on believing that one day I'm going to get there to where I want to be? Because I mean, you always wanted to be in property, but you were not getting there and things seemed to be not working out. What was your biggest motivation at the time?
Well, I mean, I've left out a few other details because I can be long-winded. But it took me almost 3 years to get into the property industry at my first go. When I'd finished my diploma, the only job I could get with such a diploma in banking and finance is to be a teller or work in a bank. But obviously, you have desires of the kind of life you'd like to live. And I knew that if I was going to work in branch banking, I'm not going to be able to even afford a car to start with. So I knew that, okay, look, I mean, I have to make something of myself. Long story cut short, I left that job, went to go tutor at the Department of Business Management at UJ. And then from there, I just basically decided I'm going to do that honors and property valuation. So now that's the continuation, or rather that's the prelude before the honors. But what went through my mind was definitely frustration because I had an honors degree, but I was a petrol attendant. Not that that is demeaning or demoralizing. It was just it was tough because I knew I had more in me. I knew that I can offer the industry a little bit more than what I currently am. In fact, I wasn't contributing to the industry because I was outside of the industry. I was given a job that was basically menial, pouring petrol, doing office admin, and trying to source clients in between the working hours so that I can basically increase revenue for the company I was working for. So I knew that, this role was not fulfilling for me, but I knew it was an interim role. So I suppose to answer your question, well, for me, and I'll say it because I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Christ. So I've had my roots firmed up in the Word. Had a lot of scriptures which I still have now, from Jeremiah 29 to Joshua 1, that basically gave me assurance that it's fine, it's gonna work out. And so that basically motivated me. But again, you don't want to be a lazy Christian. You also still need to do a lot of work from your side. So I continued to work, and like I said, I knew that I wanted to get back into the industry, and so what did I do? I decided to go back and do a master's. I knew it wasn't going to be an easy role. Not that I wanted the master's. I just wanted an opportunity to mix with people that I knew would enable me to get back into the industry. So that requires faith, that requires action as well from your side. So that's what actually motivated or kept my lamp burning, because I knew that this is what it is at the moment, but it's temporary.
Wow. And now we're looking at you with about over 10 years, close to 11 years experience in the property sector. Looking at the current situation of COVID-19 and what the pandemic has done to our economy at large. One of the biggest things that have been affected during this time is the commercial property market. Can you give us some light into that, like from an expert point of view? What is happening in property during this time?
I think we'd need a lot more hours to go through this, because, like I mentioned, we've already done. I was part of a webinar that basically took 2 hours, and we were not even done. But I'll try to encapsulate it or summarize it for you. It's been devastating. So, just from my perspective, at the moment, another email has just come in relating to that. And when you say commercial, for those who wouldn't understand, I think to break it down, you're looking at retail. And retail basically means all the shopping centers in terms of that sector. Commercial, what we look at when we say commercial, we're looking at office property, and then also got industrial property. We've got residential, but they haven't been that much affected. But these three, so from a retail perspective, it's been a bloodbath, a proper bloodbath, because a lot of tenants are having to shut down their businesses. And some of these businesses are businesses that people have poured out their entire investments or even their entire retirements, which essentially they're seeing it go down the drain. Talking to a colleague of mine, she said that she had a devastating conversation with one of the tenants who just basically, he wept on the telephone that, look, I need more help from you guys because I'm seeing everything going down the drain. But to cut a long story short again, what we're seeing definitely is a devastation of the sector, but because Retail depends on dwell time. Dwell time means that the time you spend in a shopping center, for example, because at times customers don't buy, for example, some products from the top of their minds. They have to. It becomes like a spontaneous purchase, so it's an impulsive buy, and so some of those tenants rely on that. And so without people walking around in the shopping centers, they don't have tenants or customers to come and buy their products. From that perspective as well, we've seen turnovers go down because they don't have customers to come and buy. So it means that they have to ultimately retrench their people or their employees because obviously they don't have income. Or revenue rather, to pay some of their overheads, including salaries. They don't have money to pay for rental because they haven't been generating income, and generally your rental is normally between 40 to 50%, or sometimes between 20 to 30%, depending on the type of business you run. So it's been devastating on the retail sector. There's a lot more that we can expand upon, but I think obviously, for the sake of time, I can only give you a synopsis. On the commercial side, which is the offices, initially our thought was that they're not going to be adversely affected. Obviously, they're going to be impacted, but not that much, because we felt that, just like with our business, we've been working online. So we've been conducting our meetings on Zoom, on MS meetings, MS Teams, Skype, WebEx. So we've been able to obviously continue operations from that perspective. But again, with our business as well, which then just changed our way of thinking a little bit, we are collecting rental as one function of our business. So in other words, we're not collecting rental at the moment from other tenants because they are affected. So in other words, our business is also affected, yet there are other functions that we can actually perform. So that also gave us an indication, because many of my tenants in the office sector are in a diverse offering of services. Some of them are in the aviation business. So they've been affected because airports have basically been shut down as well. Some of them are producers and distributors of alcohol, which was banned. Some of them are in the medical fraternity, so from podiatrists, dentists, psychologists, physiotherapists. And I mean, if you understand occupational therapy, for example, you need your clients to be at your premises because you are dealing with the client physically, just like with dentistry work. I mean, you can't perform any dentistry work and email it to a customer. They have to be there.
Yeah.
Some of them are in the construction business, of which construction was halted. So in the same vein, they can't build a house and email it as well. So in those instances, they've been affected because their services have been affected.
Yeah.
On the industrial side, same thing as commercial. They haven't been able to service their clients. So it's been a very tough one because tenants have not been able to meet their ends meet. Some of them actually are saying that they've been living off their savings. Those are the lucky ones. The unlucky ones are basically have given us notice that I can't continue. My business is basically non-existent. So, and I'm talking about big tenants as well who are feeling the pinch. So it's been a very difficult one.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, from a normal person who's sitting back at home, who doesn't see all these things, I mean, they don't see the impact that the situation has had on many things. And I mean, this is the economy we're talking about. And it's a ripple effect. At the end of the day, it's going to hit the person down there who's working as a petrol attendant, because now the people that were pouring petrol going to work don't have work anymore. So it's affecting everything. It's affecting everything. And now...
Well, the interesting part is that, I mean, during the lockdown, so you follow even the stock markets simultaneously, because it has a lot of leanings that ultimately affect the property market. So in fact, in the webinar that we're going to have, that I was speaking to you offline about, I just got confirmation from one of the investment bankers who's going to join us as an industry expert, and he's going to be speaking more from an industry perspective, so a corporate industry perspective, because they fund. RMB is one of the largest investment banks in the country, on the African continent anyway. And as we were just chatting before I came online with you, I mean, Edcon, for example. Edcon is basically under, I wouldn't say liquidation, they're under business rescue, because they were effectively losing almost 500 million rands a month, so April and May. So they're basically going to have to shut down a number of their stores. So what that means to that average person, like you were talking about, is that there's going to be a lot of retrenchments. Remember, before the lockdown, we had already a number of structural economic issues. But during the lockdown, or rather just before we entered the lockdown, the last ratings agency, which was Moody's, which had us at least at investment grade, then downgraded us to sub-investment, which is junk status. So what that basically means is that pension funds or institutional investors who were having investments or who plunged money into the South African economy, in the next few months, we'll be seeing them having to recall their investments, because according to investment policies or their strategies or approaches, they can't invest in countries that are investment or sub-investment grade or junk status. So what that means is that the economy is going to shrink, because that amount of money basically has to be taken out of the economy because of the type of status we carry. Now, collectively, you look at some of the the parastatals or state-owned entities, for example, Transnet to Eskom to SABC, all of those are also have been downgraded. And remember, with a country being downgraded to sub-investments, the different sectors follow suit, because obviously they fall under that economy. So it means that even our banks, which are very much resilient, are also going to be downgraded a few ratings below. So some of the investors that have actually invested in those banks, which are international investors who've invested in those banks, will have to recall some of the investments, because they can't invest in certain grades below their threshold. So what all that means is that you're going to then find that it's going to be expensive for the government then now to borrow money. If they're able to borrow money, they're going to borrow it at high interest rates. So meaning that they're going to have to pay more than what they used to. So what that means is that, for example, you import Brent crude, which is basically then going to be refined to petrol and diesel and fuel, it's going to be more expensive. So when we were paying 16 rands before the lockdown, we're going to be paying probably like 18 to 20 rands. That's where it affects the person on the street. So all of these are basically going to have an impact on each person on the ground who's involved in the economy. In fact, whether they're involved or not, because whatever transaction will have to do that involves a foreign currency, basically are going to be adversely affected by now the much more expensive rand-dollar exchange. And so that's what basically that's going to transpire during these next couple of months.
Yeah, it's really bad. And now when you paint the picture, we just see the reality unfolding in our eyes, and it's quite devastating. But I think it's very important, and it's justice to the person who's sitting down back at home, who doesn't know what's happening. This is justice to them to understand what actually is happening out there. And I think now it calls on for each and every person individually to start finding ways of surviving. And I think that's where this is going. So Can you just give us, and you told me before we started recording that you are the vice president of the Institute of Real Estate Management. Tell us what's coming up, and so that we can share the link with the viewers and see if they can join that event.
Yeah. So, the Institute of Real Estate Management it's a body. So we are not a trade organization, we're an institute. The difference being that we focus on equipping our members, equipping them from a continuous professional development point of view. So there's always courses and webinars, like I told you, and information that is always circulated so that they are able to then manage their properties according to standards and according to best practices, or basically are equipped to be able to manage their portfolios more confidently. And that basically means that we are engaged with a number of opportunities where we produce webinars. I mean, for example, before the lockdown, before level 4 was implemented, we received a guideline on how to actually get your buildings ready for opening. So things like you need to get your posters up, basically detailing certain regulations. You need to be able to look out for your refuse management mechanisms. So in other words, have certain things in place. You also need to understand the type of hygiene that now needs to be implemented. So washing down or wiping down your basins, your wash basins, your taps, your door handles. So that is the type of work we're busy with. But now the IREM, which is short for Institute of Real Estate Management, is an international organization. So originally from Chicago, there's about 15 countries that have got chapters. South Africa is the first one on the African continent. We were able to get it established in 2018 when we went to Miami to get it established with the mother body. Now there's 20,000 members. There's a designation under IREM called the CPM, which is the Certified Property Manager designation. And that basically is a designation that is bestowed upon members who are able to meet the educational requirements, the experience requirement, and you also have to pledge to uphold ethical standards. So in other words, there's certain ethical standards that are expected of you as a property manager. So what that does is that from a global perspective, the CPM designation is then recognized as a gold standard for property managers, not only on the South African or African continent, but globally. Now, not a lot of people know about this designation, but that's the work we've been busy with so that we can be able to have it proliferated in the industry. That's just a short synopsis of the organization. So, like I said, we've got a webinar that is coming up. That webinar will then be focusing on the real estate industry after lockdown, or rather in the short to medium term. What can we expect in terms of real estate? We want to be able to then just perhaps gain the insights of industry experts who have seen a lot of changes in their industry in terms of their discussions with colleagues, in the numbers that they're seeing in their portfolios, and what they anticipate to be the route going forward. We've got quite a number of distinguished experts, and I'm happy to share that link with you once it's been established. But I think it's a very informative platform that those would be interested in understanding where the property industry is heading.
So I really do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and as you said, there's an email that came through which requires you to be at work right now. So I really appreciate you joining me today, and I consider you a legend, even though you did mention that you are not a legend in your own rights, but for me you are, because of the reasons that I told you. So thank you so much. Guys, that is Mr. Ramushu, our legend. It's finished.
Miracle perspective is in the area. Perspective. It's finished.